This is the Mind Your Own Wellness podcast with Rebecca Castano-Manda. Before we kick off today's Mind Your Own Wellness episode, I would like to mention a disclaimer. This episode and all episodes thereafter are for general information purposes only. I am not a medical practitioner and information discussed is opinion only. Please consult your licensed care practitioner or medical professional for advice as required. Welcome to episode 2 of Mind Your Own Wellness podcast. Today I'm very happy to be a little bit more upbeat with my journey of rehabilitation and recovery. Since episode 1, when I went over the crash and the brain hemorrhage and stroke, I'm going to dive into the rehabilitation side of things. And it's not, I'm going to be completely honest here. Oh my goodness. So rehabilitation, and I was also mentioning this to Catherine, who is one of the amazing journalists at That's Life magazine. When I was talking her through rehabilitation and recovery, I said to her that there are times when, actually, it's not there are times. For me, it was the entire time. When I was going through that process and going to my appointments, that's, I guess, one of the moments that I fell into this deep, horrible tunnel of darkness, because I would put all of this effort into rehab only to find myself feeling worse the next day, and then it continued to get worse and worse, and I kind of felt like, what is the point of this? What is the point of going through this process of trying to get better when I'm just feeling worse? And you're in more pain than you were the day before, and then you're in more day again and again and again, and you have the headaches and the migraines and the sore pain, and you're tired all the time, and you just think, why bother? I mean, and then, you know, you do get to a point of, I got to a point where I thought, I could choose not to do this and I could feel probably better, but I'm going to not be in pain like this. And that is the dark truth about rehabilitation. There has to be a really strong desire to live. There has to be that just, I don't even know how to describe, there has to be that commitment, that passion, that strength to live, because in order to put yourself through recovery and rehabilitation, it is the most excruciating, traumatizing pain. And again, it's funny because you're looking at something that essentially is, the goal is to help you. The goal is to keep you alive. The goal, all of these things are put in place to help keep you alive, to get you stronger, to get you functioning. But yet in the moment when you're doing it, those things are essentially, they kind of take those things away. You wake up tired, more fatigued, you can't move, you're taking more pain meds. It's just this circle of yuck. It's like a carousel ride of pain that you can't get off of. But I'm going to, what I'm going to do is I would like to just share a little bit of what a typical day, probably in the first 6 to 12 months of that rehabilitation recovery looked like for me, because even now when people see me walking, talking, they go, oh, she looks like she's made a full recovery, she looks like she's perfectly fine. And that's just not the case. But the thing is, with pain, suffering, PTSD, you don't stop carrying the load of pain or trauma. You just get really good at carrying it, so that people don't always notice it anymore. So a typical day for me, keeping in mind, we had a 3-year-old son at the time, and my husband was still trying to work full time. I had then not been able to return to work. So my husband was solely responsible because, again, going back to episode 1, I had a stroke, which meant that I was unable to feed myself, clothe myself, go to the toilet by myself, anything. I'm not going to call myself a victim because I absolutely am not a victim. A bad thing happened to me, but I'm not a victim. I am a survivor. But no. See, here we go again. I use the word but, and I've been seeing this absolutely phenomenal psychologist, and I have been since the crash, and she said never use the word but, use the word and. So I'm going to redo that sentence, and I'd like everyone else, if you identify with this in any way, use this sentence as well. So I have been through a bad thing. A bad thing happened to me, and I survived it. And it hurt. And it still hurts. And I'm going to survive it. And I survived it every day since then, and I will continue to survive it, and I will continue to put in the work needed to survive it. So, my husband at this point, like I said, he was working full-time. So he was trying to navigate full-time work, raising a 3-year-old child essentially by himself, and taking me to every single appointment because I couldn't drive. I was forbidden to drive, obviously. So he would have to walk me up to the centre and go and work in the car. He would have to take our son to daycare or to find someone to look after him. It was absolutely mental. But yet, we did it. He did it. You do what you have to do. So a day for me looked like I would be dropped off, and I would have, and not necessarily in this order, it was at this point in time, it was all public funded, so it would be what they could fit in for me when they could. So there was no consistency, and sometimes, keeping in mind, like I said, it's public, so if I went to and I will not mention this venue, but when I went to this particular venue for treatment, if, for example, one of the specialists weren't able to see me, they didn't call me. I would just be told, I'm sorry, they're not available today. Or they would just change my appointment without notice. So any given day, and this was every single day, I would have about 6 hours of therapy to undertake. So that would be physiotherapy, that would be speech therapy, psychology. It went into hydrotherapy. Gosh, there's so many others that I'm trying to think of. That is, I would also need to do chiropractic therapy. There was cognitive brain therapy. And again, this was back to back all day, every day. So that wasn't fun. And I remember one particular time that I was in the physio trying to do it, and I remember saying, I don't think that I can do it. And at this point, remembering I couldn't speak very well for myself, and my husband wasn't permitted to be in there, so that was very, very challenging to try and communicate to these people, specialists, whatever they want to be called. We'll move on from that bit. But I would sometimes write notes and say, I don't think that I can do that, or I would nod. And to give you an idea, actually, it's probably how I sounded back then. This is not to be offensive to anybody. This is literally what I sounded like because I could not speak. But me trying to speak would sometimes sound a bit like if I needed to ask a question, for example, I would sound like that. That is because my whole vocal cords and my muscle capacity were just stripped. my hand, for example, even my left hand, become a claw. I had no movement in my left side at all. It was basically frozen. So that was very hard to try and speak up for myself and communicate that I could not do something. And I wouldn't say I was forced to go on a treadmill to learn to walk again, but there certainly wasn't an option. There was not an option for me not to get on that treadmill that day. And evidently I fell because I couldn't stand up by myself unassisted. So I fell off and I hurt myself. And they were recording my progression, which I was happy with because I wanted to see how I was. That was sort of my motivational tool to see how I was developing. In the moment when I had fallen off of the treadmill, all of that footage had gone. I asked for the footage and they no longer had any footage to show me. So that was in the first 6 to 12 months. And then I did not feel like that therapy was being helpful to me or my husband, because at the end of the day, like I said, my husband was trying to work full-time, care for our child, and he was also trying to work from a basement in a rehabilitation community center, and it was a lot. So I had then tried to, again, still couldn't speak, so then I was just using the internet and Facebook at that point to try and ask for recommendations to other alternatives. Now, the disadvantage, I guess, to finding private other alternatives is that it costs so much more money. I was without an income, and it was just very, very hard, but we did it. And I found some fantastic private support networks to help me with that therapy. And within, I would just say within a shorter period of time, so within 6 to 12 months in the public system, I wasn't really getting the achievements or hitting the milestones that I probably should have been. There's a number of reasons for that, but when I went into the private sector, it was just a different, I guess, techniques that were used. I remember my speech pathologist was teaching me how to speak from the absolute roots of speaking, and she would teach me this tool of you had to hold your tummy and you would have to feel the rhythm of breathing. And she said, as adults we forget that breathing comes from our actual tummies and not from our throat. So I had to learn how to breathe again and bring my whole voice up and speak. And, there were tools to help me cognitively remember how to project my voice. And to be fair, again, private costs a lot of money, so the access that I had was very limited, and for that reason I chose to spread it out rather than having it frequently every week. I had to spread it out, so I had to, and again, they were great. They gave me lots of homework and lots of home tools to use to help me still get the therapy and the support that I needed, but without being able to access it via them as often as I would like. And it was really great because, especially with speech therapy, I had like this step-by-step guide to help me remember every single day how to get my voice up and how to help me project it. And I still can't yell or scream or raise my voice, but I can speak. There are certainly days when and even my husband will look and go, oh no, it's going to be a bad day, isn't it? Or a bad week. There are days even now when I will have cluster migraines just because my brain is probably overstimulated, or it's just been under a lot of pressure that it probably didn't want to be under, and I will have cluster migraines, and I will wake up and I will not be able to speak well. I will have very poor memory capacity. So all of those things are still very much my day-to-day life now. I have paralysis events now. It's just not something that I go out into the street and tell people about. I manage it. Then there was neurophysio. So this was again through a private arrangement, like private healthcare. And I went and met this absolutely phenomenal, I want to say alternative, but I don't even know if she was alternative. She was just amazing. Like, I've never met anyone who's like her, that really dives into the root causes of things. And I remember, and I didn't even know there was a thing called neurophysio, and it was amazing. She taught me that because I said to her, and I'll discuss this in another episode, but there wasn't a shortage of people who thought that I was faking. There wasn't. I'm going to be straight up, and it broke my heart. It actually broke me to think that the people that I thought, there were people, and you know, some had explained why, and I appreciate why they thought that, and most of that came about because, you know, I was perfectly fine for that first 2 weeks after the crash, and then just like instantly I wasn't fine, and that kind of went, how can that be? I think she's faking it. But what it was again, like I mentioned in episode 1, it was the fact that my body was functioning under adrenaline only, and once that adrenaline had dissipated, I don't know what the word is, vanished, I guess, my body shut down on me. And so the neurophysio had explained that even further, and it was so good, because when I heard that people thought I was faking it, it broke my heart. It broke me, like I said, but it also sent me into a place where I was trying to force my body to do things it couldn't do, because I figured, well, I'm faking it, and I didn't think that I was faking it. Why would I be faking this? But then if I am faking, and you can even hear it now, just me overthinking it and trying to rationalize it and trying to fix or compensate to stop faking it. So when I went to the neurophysio, I cried and I sobbed and I said, I don't know why, but people think that I'm faking it, and I need help because I don't think that I am. And she said, you're absolutely not faking it. You can clearly see by the scans that your brain is doing X, Y, Z. And she said, what we need to do is start reconnect. And she explained it like this. And it was, again, there's some medical professionals, specialists, holistic therapists, whoever they are, there's a select few in the world, and they will explain to you things in a way that makes so much sense and that you feel like you have control again. When this beautiful human neurophysio said to me, what has happened is your brain has neuroreceptors, like a phone line, if you will, just a connecting cord from your brain to every part of your body. And after the crash, what has happened is those neuroreceptors, that cord, it's still going to your body, but it's frayed, it's damaged, and it's just not connecting. It's just not connecting and flowing as it should be. We have a window of opportunity. What we need to do is repair that. So whatever's frayed, we need to just repair it. We need to smooth it out. We need to make sure that those receptors are going to where they need to be going. They're sending the correct message when they need to be sending that message. And we need to build your body strength up. So during this repairing phase, your body has the strength to support it. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, great. So I am not crazy. I am not faking it. And there is a very real problem here, but I also have the power to fix it. And she went, absolutely. And until I fell pregnant with my daughter, I was seeing her and she was amazing. It was just these great, simple activities that I could do with my body at home to slowly and gently repair those messages. And it was amazing. And again, it's just one of those things that you just kind of go, why did no one else tell me this? Why did nobody else, even when I was in hospital doing all of these drawings of clocks and things like that, everyone had access to the same scans. I mean, I had the scans done at the hospital, so how did, none of it makes sense to me that this one individual was able to shed that kind of light and no one else could or would. And again, that comes down to when you have the information and when you seek out different options, which I did, you learn so much more, and then you develop this, okay, right, so if that does that and that does that, I have the power to do this, I can control this, and then you're taking your well-being into your own hands. And that is the same for many things that I have done since then. I've always been aware of health and well-being in a smaller way before the crash, but then since the crash, it's just a whole new game. It's a whole new life form, I guess you can say, that I've had to go, hold on, this doesn't make any sense to me, I have to trust my gut. Why did they not give me this information? But then the downside to that is overthinking and losing trust, and that is essentially what I have done. And that is a scary place to be, is losing trust in the people that you were raised to trust, and having to try to rationally go, is this fight or flight telling me not to trust, or is this a healthy adult? And I learned that from my psychologist too. Is this a healthy adult process to learn to sort of trust with a healthy barrier? So instead of just trusting whatever you hear, listen to it and use critical thinking techniques to go, okay, what can I take from this that will help me? And what should I throw away? The one thing that I've learned, even as of recently, is when someone gives you advice or information, treat it like a gift. Sometimes you receive a gift that's amazing and you love it hard and you look after it forever and you embrace it, and other times you'll receive a gift that's actually pointless and useless to you. So you can bin it, or you can re-gift it to someone who actually will value it. And that is how I now look at information that I am given, whether that's from medical professionals, family, friends, whatever. If I'm given information, if that information is not going to support my well-being or my family or give me any kind of joy, I don't need it, because I have lived this existence now where I know that my life expectancy is now reduced because of my brain damage. So now I have to take everything that I see, hear, feel, all of it, and really evaluate, do I keep it in my life, or do I need to pass it forward to someone who it will benefit? And if it's going to benefit no one, burn it. I don't need that in my life, and no one else does either. But so that is a part of my rehabilitation journey. And of course, it's never going to be covered in a single episode, but I will continue to share my journey in future episodes, and we're going to bounce forward and backwards so I can share with you as much as I possibly can to help you with your wellness journeys. And I'm very excited to say that a part of my wellness journey and just embracing different options for keeping me alive and keeping me healthy and well is I have met a wonderful soul of who is Portia Wilson. So in episode 3 coming up, Portia Wilson will be joining us as a guest, and I will be asking her all kinds of amazing wellness questions. And if you have never met Portia, I can tell you she's the most wonderful burst of sunshine beautiful souls ever, who is an absolute powerhouse. And I'm very excited to have her as a guest on the Mind Your Own Wellness podcast. So I will leave you here for now. Thank you so much again for hitting that play button and taking your wellness seriously. I appreciate you immensely, and I look forward to talking with you next time. Have a great day and be kind. Bye.